A Game 5, Round 11 between the E4 Knights and FSU Garnet. Number 9, the upset happens. Number 16, E4 Knights go ahead, take them down 3-2 again in that round number 11 in Game 5. Oh my God, we've got a great match to end here. It's one final match here for week number 3 on the stream side of things. And it's a battle for supremacy to stay inside of the top 10 in the power rankings. We've got number 10, SIUE Red, going up against number 7, Illini Orange, folks. My name is McCormiel. Alongside me is Mick. And oh my God, is our map set so diverse for this next series. Oh, I mean, if you can read across the top of your screen right there, I mean, we got so many different maps to choose from.
We'll have a lot to talk about with those. And, speaking of things to talk about, just that ending right there we saw in that last game. Absolutely absurd. We got 2 Florida teams digging out on a Florida map, Tallahassee, Orlando, Miami. Everybody was talking about the weather in Florida, but nobody was talking about all the fires and all the shots being taken down there because that was insane. I'm still having shivers. I don't know how we're going to follow that up, but hopefully, these guys give us a game to talk about and can hopefully top it.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say real quick, though, I do feel like these two teams are going to provide enough firepower between the both of them to make this a very compelling series, if not just as good as the one we saw last round. I mean, hey, look, not every series is going to go Game 5, Round 11. Not every series is going to be spectacular in fashion. However, we can always hope for it as casters and as fans and spectators to Call of Duty. However, let's not necessarily get our hopes up just yet for another Game 5, Round 11, although we can kind of, have that guilty pleasure and a little sneaky suspicion that we might get it. But talking about some of the maps that have already happened today on the Alpha and the Bravo stream. Bravo stream has concluded here for week 3, day 2. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the Bravo stream first and some of the matches that happened. First off, BU Esports took down SSU Blue in a 3-0 fashion. Next match, it was Utica Esports who took down BSCA Bobcats in a 3-0 fashion. And then one more map on the Bravo stream, also a sweep. It was a set of SHU Esports who took down UHeart Esports. Again, that was 3-0. Talking about the Alpha games, though, on stream already, we had a crazy first match with the CU Ravens taking down RU Black 3-1. And if you guys didn't see that, you might want to go back and watch the rebroadcast of that. Because he dropped 47, dropped 49 kills in the hard point after losing basically a 1 versus 2 in the control for RU Black to get their first game on the board. But then, of course, we just saw FSU get taken down by UCF 3-2 in a Game 5, Round 11. And now here for our final game again, as we said beforehand, it's going to be Illini Orange versus SIUE Red. Raid Hardpoint starts off our slate. However, it's important that we go ahead and take a look at the 2 rosters playing out inside of this best of 5 series. Mick, on the side of SIUE Red, we've got Buzz, D-Day, Mythic, Plasmid. They've all got some really, really nice KD. 6 games played against both of those with all those players combined. And of course, Illini Orange, you got Shuffy, Crit, XE, Ghost, with Shuffy being the captain. Oh, this game is promising to be a good one for the ages.
Which, we are already getting word that they're going to start it up. So, I know we didn't exactly get into the players too much here, but we could talk about their stats all day, but it really comes down to how they show themselves in the match, where you are going to have a lot of raids going on here, most likely, and really utilizing, as we talked about earlier on that first game, about how spacious it is, how much area there is to work with it, and just show these guys on how they're able to maneuver themselves as a team. Because, teamwork's huge, as we see, not only do you need to sit there and work and just perform as an individual, you need to make sure as a team you can sit there and coordinate your actions and things and find those rotations, find a way to sit there and get yourself around the map and all in all winning it. Because as we saw in that last game, you can sit there and feel secure all day, but you got to close it out. Otherwise, other guys could get the best of you. So you got to sit there and, these guys, I know it's getting late for them and it's getting late for a lot of people, but that's going to this match right here is a much bigger determining factor because they're both 2 top 10 teams. We just saw a top ranking team drop down. These guys who are ranked higher don't want to sit there and see that happen again.
Yeah, well, both of these 2 teams fighting for supremacy atop the Mid-America A division inside of CCL Season 3. Illini Orange on the right, SIUE Red on the left. And folks, I don't want to get your hopes up too much here, but you might just want to stick around to the end of the stream. Just a little bit of a precursor for this match. I'm just telling you that as a bro to a bro. But trust me, you are going to want to be here at the end of the stream. However, this one's just getting kicked off. SIUE Red going to go ahead and find themselves in the hard points first. Number 10 ranked SIUE Red, might I add. Illini Orange better in the power rankings right now. But again, this is a fight for supremacy to stay in the top 10 of power rankings between both of these 2 teams. It'll be interesting. 30 seconds have ticked off. Point number 1 thus far. 21 kills and a triple kill from Ghosty is going to turn things in the other direction.
Yeah, that was a great start by these guys over there in SIUE. You know, they sat there, they were really aggressive right there in the front, making sure to get that establishment. We saw Plasma get a pick right there, right behind the van on, you know, in that little street up under, like right off the bat, just closing it out in the mid. But you know, once the team sat there, started establishing themselves on point. Sadly, they got a little too clustered there because Ghosty had a great little triple frag right there with one grenade, really just kind of closing the deal with that, allowing them to sit there and get those 21 points on the board and closing out that first hard point to make it a lot closer of a match. You know, as soon as SIU Heat had most of those points, you know, they traded out pretty quickly.
The middle map up to the front door. Crit, Shuffy, Exy, all finding a piece of the pie. As another one flies through middle map, it is going to be a player, unfortunately, who misses out on streaks. Ghosty at 6-0, unfortunately, isn't able to find either the artillery or that cruise missile to go ahead and use. As a little bit more of a, I guess you could say, an item in the back pocket to pull out for later, but savory as it is going to be Crit, who finds himself 2 at the beginning of the point. Now on a 4 streak, hops over the half wall, is going to be able to get cut down by Buzz, so that could have potentially been a break for the side of Illini Orange to break through water steps and into the bedroom to find those spawns over towards P3. Unfortunately, that does not work out in their favor. Rotations over towards the garage now for the side of SIUE Red. This is kind of reminding me of that first raid hardpoint we saw between the first 2 teams on the stream today. You know, we saw a team be able to hold down Ps 1 and 2 for a good majority of the time, but they eventually ended up losing out the spawns over towards P3. However, a great wise push from the side of SIUE Red doesn't really bode that well because Illini Orange pushed through the water, spawn the side of SIUE out behind them, back at P2, flip it all around, and within 10 seconds, they've broken into the building.
Yeah, that's rough. You know, you sat there, SIU, he had a really good lock on these guys on P2. You know, Ghosty may have had a really good angle there in kitchen, laying down the floor, you know, kind of manipulating that spot and getting 2 kills right there. But he rushed right out the front, and you know SIU is going to be holding that because once you sit there and cross to the mid of the map, you're going to have 4 guys looking in that direction with it being such a pivotal point, such a high area for everybody on the map to sit there and get vision of you. So you're really endangering yourself there rather than going out the side through money or somewhere along the lines of that. So once you get guys like rotating and getting into that point and trying to rotate out, if they can't make that execute, you do see P3 being a pretty easy lock with a lot of ways to kind of maneuver the map more for that P4 over here on court that we're at now.
2 huge kills there from D-Day over towards basketball courts. Will give them the spawns, will give them the rotations, but most importantly, will allow them to go ahead and find a bit of time here to try and get back to where this is much more manageable of a comeback for the side of SIUE Red because Illini Orange, we saw their hold on P2 and Kitchen. We saw them break for about 30 seconds of scrap time there on P1. And of course, over towards that garage, it was huge when they were able to break just within 10 seconds on the side of SIUE Red. And once again, they do the same. Shuffy with a 4 streak, breaks through the front door, contest time all around. Isn't going to happen for long. They get back inside the hill. Illini Orange so good here on raid thus far. It's been tech savvy. The guns ablazing. And of course, with 23 seconds left, the rotations back to middle map are going to have to come through. But a 100-point lead for the side of Illini Orange has them feeling good, has them feeling saucy early here on the raid hardcore.
Yeah, we see these guys in Illini Orange doing really well here. You sit there and see them playing as a team. Exactly what we mentioned earlier. These guys are making collective pushes. They're making sure if they get the intel on one man, if he dies, you have another dude right there knowing exactly where he is to get that trade. And we see even if they get locked down on a point, they're really good about being very aggressive and storming the next one and being ready for it to take it over and get it. And that's exactly why they have a 100-point lead on these guys right now because, you know, you may be able to rotate all day and know these spawns, but if you have the superior firepower and your team knows how to take over these places, know how to lock it down those trophy systems, you know, get these frags without using frags, then I mean, more credit to you. You can sit there and you can dominate the game, which is exactly what these guys are attempting to do in this first round here.
3 go down. That's the 4th. Break into P5 is going to be the side of SIUE Red, so a glimmer of hope here, albeit it's scrap time, is going to allow them to get a little bit closer to that 173-point margin, but again, it's just such a large and highly spread out lead for the side of Illini Orange. They've played so good together throughout the beginning of this map. Trades have always been there. It seems like every time we see a kill on the side of SIUE Red, it's always 2 from the side of Illini Orange back there to combat it. So 2 streaks combined now for the side of SIUE Red. It was a 4 in total. However, they do have the rotations from middle map over towards P2 for Kitchen, but most importantly, either A, they've got to fly through the pillars here, watch the cut from the player number 8 flying through middle to try and go ahead and flank those 2 players in the middle. They've got to get those power positions from the laundry side of things and the steps, but I mean, every single time something good looks for the side of SIUE Red, Illini Orange is just there with screen gunpower, and they just shut them down at every single angle. This team is so good. Number 7 on the power rankings for a reason, but more importantly, they've held down about 30 seconds in P1 and look to go for even more.
Yeah, you can sit there and see exactly how well these guys are doing just by looking at the scoreboard. You see, we already have these guys are shutting them down to sub 100 points right now. You look at these kill leads, we got 2 guys on the streak right now going 16-11, 12-8, 16-10, 14-15. XC being the only one slacking, but that's only by a kill, and that just recently happened on this point. You know, leading up to here, we got guys on SIUE like not exactly finding their stride yet. They're looking for these angles. They're looking for the places they feel the most comfortable with, but they're losing these gunfights. And I think once you get to this position in the game, you have to sit there and evaluate what you're doing and try a different angle for where you're trying to approach this game. Because, you know, obviously being very upfront and winning and going into these gunfights, you know, face to face, it's not working because you think that every one-on-one is going to be that, but it ends up being a 3-on-1, and it's much less likely to win those than it is usually.
Streaks do come through, not able to find anything. However, the front of the hill is going to be held down. Shuffy tries to find the last couple of kills, but just like we saw in game number 4 in the last series that we casted, it was just kind of right down to the end where the team just kept continuing to break through and just hold for a little bit more time. But my God, right out of the gate, Illini Orange, a very quick map number 1, 250 to 85. A 100-point club in map number 1 is not going to bode well for the side of SIUE's confidence. However, we got to talk about Shuffy real quick. Not only did Shuffy pretty much lead the way in terms of hill time, he dominated in terms of getting a score for the side of Illini Orange over 3 minutes inside of the hill for game number 1. And that just allows the players around him to just slay out the entire time. I mean, if you literally have somebody playing inside of the hill 24/7, you don't need to worry about getting hill time whatsoever, especially if your slayers around the hill are cutting down those players every single time. And not to mention, inside of the hill, Shuffy was able to get kills no matter where he was on the map. He just sat in the hill, sat on a head glitch, waited for players to come through, and while his teammates slayed around those aggressive SMGs, he was able to either pick off those ARs or those weak SMGs that got through the first line of defense. Such surreal gameplay, honestly, from the side of Illini Orange. And as we get ready for game number 2, I mean, that was one of the quickest hardpoints I've seen, especially with such promising teams at number 7 ranked and number 10th ranked in power rankings. I mean, oh my God, Illini Orange, they look to be back where they were last year. This is playoff form already, and it's not even a split 2 yet.
Yeah, these guys, it almost felt like they were on home turf here on Raid. It's those that, I mean, it almost feels like they've competed all the way back in Black Ops 2, and they're just ready to get right back into the race because these guys had it set up like home turf. They knew exactly where they were going. They had Shuffy right there on the point once they got around. He almost felt like a final boss. You know, you sit there, you sweat, and you have all this blood, sweat, and tears into getting onto that point. But once you get there, you just have a bigger man waiting for you to just, you know, slap you down as hard as he can. Ooh. And that's really hard to sit there and kind of, okay, hold up. But it's like really hard to sit there and retaliate. But it's just overall makes it really just difficult for these guys to sit there and do that, especially when it's elaborated and laid out so well by Illini to sit there where there's almost a step system to get to them. And it almost shows that they know this map like the back of their hands. And these guys have played it week in week. And, you know, looking at the lineups we have here with the maps, it shows that they want to play this more.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, you look at these two teams, you look at the KDs in terms of hardpoint, and, you know, back in the first series, again, another point we made was KDs don't tell the story most of the time. And especially since the side of Illini Orange, you know, they've had some relatively tough opponents to play thus far, at least within their own division. Statistically speaking, this is the toughest team that they've had to go up against, but their hardpoint looks to be completely and utterly just leaps and bounds ahead, just a cut above where the side of SIUE Red is in terms of contention with them. I mean, when you 100-point club anybody, either A, the other team is just not having great communication with one another, or B, you're just out slaying them. And that's what Illini Orange did time and time again throughout every single hard point. We saw them break within 10 seconds. We saw them break within 5. When SIUE Red had rotations, we saw them get completely dominated or just ran through right through the front door and kitchen, broke into it, and we're like, hey, honey, we're home. And now it turns into their hill for the entire time. So Moscow Search and Destroy, again, we talked about how much of a variation we have with maps. And if you could read at the top of your screen, Raid, Moscow, Raid, Moscow, Raid to end the series off. So you either love them or you hate them. Moscow Search and Destroy, though, coming up next, it is going to be that A bomb site that is going to be the preferred bomb site for a lot of the teams. However, without snipers and without smokes, the B could be used a little bit more. It's just going to be that just terrible task of trying to get up through middle map because we know how difficult that can be on the offensive side. However, it just comes down to winning those one-on-one gunfights. Mick, as we look towards the Search and Destroy on Moscow, what can we expect from these two teams?
Yeah, Just playing basically off what you said with that B side, Hoss. On the other side, you have to sit there and maneuver through either the middle of the map or you have to go through street. And with those lack of snipers now in the competitive scene, it makes B side a lot more open because you have to sit there. It feels like a much more even battle. You sit there, you don't have these angles to hold with the snipers because the street is such a long line of range to where you can sit there and you can, if you're waiting on the defense side, you can already be set up there. As soon as a man comes in, you can pick them off and get that numbers advantage. But rather in this kind of meta and how things are rolling out now, A just seems to be a lot better because if you're sitting there winning those gunfights, you want to go ahead and stick to that and make sure to continue your momentum. Speaking of momentum.
Well, if Buzz Lightyear can fly, so can Buzz on the map, up through the Eskies and back around on the flank. That was instantaneous throughout the round. Nobody watching a middle map flank here from the side of Illini Orange. And that's going to come back to bite them in the you-know-where as they go ahead and lose round number 1. That's a great start there for the set of SIUE Red because, I mean, you look after that hard point, you're going in the SMD and thinking, okay, well, the momentum's maybe not on their side. It's like, okay, well, now let's take a look at the KDs from the set of SIUE Red in their games played. So for one player, Win Buzz 3.60, D-Day 4.33, Mythic 8.5, Plasma 4.3. So you look at these teams, you look at them and say, okay, well, it's a pretty big discrepancy between the two, speaking and seeming how Illini Orange doesn't have anybody above a 2.3 KD on their roster. So slaying, it's going to be good for the side of SIUE Red here, unless they revert to their old ways instead of the hard point where they just don't find any kills. And this round, it seems like they've done something.
Buzz right there once again, sticking it alive, going on 3 streak. It almost feels like they're utilizing D-Day and Mythic when you're looking at these stats. It's like they're treating them as shark bait. Hoo-ha. Like they're just throwing them out there, being like, let's get you for intel. Let's use us for guns. Let's go ahead and get these rotations out. Just let us frag. Let's do our job. We're in this position for a reason. We establish ourselves in things where their lives are on the line. We don't need to worry about an objective 24/7. As long as we get these kills, we can lock these kids out, which honestly brings a much better perspective when going into this control match after this because we've seen guys dominate on both sides now. And we've seen people sweep in both directions where, we even do see competition on either side, regardless of the mode.
Well, push on the offense side works out in no one's favor. Defensive side is going to go ahead and take the second round in a row here. So that's 2 defensive wins for each of these respective teams. 1-1 in the search and destroy we go into the next round. Ghosty and Co. on the side of Illini Orange looking to go ahead and resurrect themselves from the last lackluster offensive push that they had over towards A. A B push might be in the woodworks, however. SIUE Red is going to potentially be able to read that, and as I go straight down middle, it is going to be a break back over towards the left, and it's going to be a 4-man push up through middle map here. Are they going to be able to expect it? Last time they got flanked from Buzz, flanking all the way through. Well, he's up in gold once again. Nobody watching middle except the player all the way out over towards street. The shots come through. Buzz is there. They find the second one. Buzz, give him 2, as now a 5-1 here inside of the search and destroy. Shuffy, the last one alive in a 1v3. He's got the first one, a 1v4, now a 1v3. Shuffy looking to go ahead and clutch up for the squad here. Put Illini Orange up around, but it's going to be a very tumultuous task, a tall order, if you will. 1 versus 3. Can he go ahead and do it?
Yeah, we see SIUE being very map aware at this point. As you can see in that bottom left, these guys knew exactly where the bomb was. They set up around that. They said, all right, this was obviously a B push. So we killed 2 guys over here. I know Buzz called that out saying, bomb's right here. It's on courtyard. We need to sit here. We need to lock this up. And we only have 3 ways where this guy can come from. So one man needs to get on the street, watch all that. We need 2 guys around these windows, one on the bomb, one on the other side. We got to lock this down because he has to come to us at this point. Because if he doesn't get that bomb down, we just have a free, we have a free death we don't have to take right there. We can just chill out. We do see a man sitting there charging out, trying to get that final kill, trying to fluff his stats a little bit. But overall, SIUE doing really well here on defense, being very aggressive and almost, playing attack better on defense than they are attack.
Well, staircase push on the side of SIUE Red. They're looking for that middle map flank from the defensive side rusher. Not going to be anybody there, though, on the challenge, so the bomb can get pushed up a little bit. Thought the bomb actually might go down there, but as Buzz slides across to the left, going to bait out a couple of players that gives information to the side of SIUE Red to know that there's a couple of players playing that long flank. Double pinch around the corner now. It's going to be a push there. The Semtex comes out. Buzz going to be pushing back around. Looks for the point there on the crit. Crit's going to be able to get taken down. Ghosty around the corner as well. 2 players go down. Buzz finally finds himself another kill. 4 in a row here, looking to potentially go ahead and find himself streaks 4 versus 1. Once again, it's Shuffy in a really bad situation. An oddball play here has to make some magic happen, but with 42 seconds left, the bomb being down today, it's going to be very difficult, and as soon as he comes around the corner here, it should be his death. That's going to do it. Buzz finds 3 in the round, 5 in a row in the game. 3-1 SIUE Red resurrecting themselves from the dead.
And if I'm in Shuffy's situation there, I do not want to sit there and go for a flank, try and get that bomb back, and then run into Buzz as that first man. The master of flanks himself, who's been doing it all this game so far and being successful in most of them on both defensive rounds, just doing a great job right there. They're doing what they can. Illini, obviously, they have a round on the board. They show potential in being able to sit there and drag this game out as best as possible. Not with the middle push working out as well. Maybe it would have worked better if they didn't throw the frag or the Syntax right off there in the bat, because, you sit there and give that enemy team a lot of intel when y'all say, there's a frag that went off. Yeah, was that B? No. Was it A? No. All right, well, we know where they are. Let's group up and storm them. So we see the guys going directly for an objective at the time, but Buzz was just ready for it.
Every single time. It's like they watch their flank for like 5 seconds, Buzz isn't there, and then 5 seconds later, he just runs up the staircase or wherever they might be behind them and is able to find kills. Within 4 rounds of Search and Destroy, technically being this the 5th, 10-2. Basically, the sole reason that SIUE is in the lead as it is right now, 10-2, an opportunity to even drop 20 kills in the Search and Destroy. It is going to be Crit who finds 2 there on the excess, though. D-Day, the last one alive in a 1 versus 2. Bomb still down over towards A. Players inside of Illini Orange need to pick up the bomb. They'll go ahead and do so. The bomb will go down, rotation all the way back towards PD. Player 7 may be expecting a rotation back over towards the B street, but now can push back, knowing that, well and true, they're going to be maybe pushing back to try and find him.
D-Day doing a great job retaliating here. Buzz, he sit there. He did get the 2-1 trade right there, expecting his teammates to capitalize off that and try and sit there and take advantage of the numbers. But D-Day sitting in the back, and those other 2 guys, Mythic and Plasma, just being right there around the same area and getting caught off is super unfortunate for the guys after the upfront effort they put into it. They did get the plan off, and these guys at this point, they're going to be looking D-Day in a really tough situation. He doesn't have much space to work here. There's a lot of kind of cover, but that's for both sides, and he knows that D-Day has to get that defused, and Shuffy might let it happen, man.
Not gonna be able to find it. Close. You caught it right. He was playing his life there, waiting for him to hop on that bomb. Was able to find those initial shots, and even though he doesn't find the kill there, he's able to win the round no matter what, because of the time that he's able to play there. Was able to just sprint away with his life. If the player even tried to challenge back, either A, get the kill, or find him on the bomb, going for the defuse. Great round. Again, we talk about Search and Destroy savvy all the time. How you play time. A lot of other FPS games, you might not get that same time of bomb timer. It's all more of an audio cue thing, but in this game, you can see the timer perfectly on your screen. You know how much time there is for a defuse, how much time there is for a plant and whatnot, and that allows you to go ahead and play that to your strengths and play that as a savvy Search and Destroy veteran that you might be. But Buzz pushing up through middle map, once again, going to be behind Crit. Jesus, I just don't get it. I mean, he's going to be able to escape with his life here for now. The trophy system's going to take down the Semtex. Finally gets killed from behind. Trades go back and forth, 3 versus 3 as the round continues.
Yeah, Illini already having a really strong start here. Buzz, he sit there, he tried to capitalize on what he's best at doing, finding that flow, charging right up the center, just getting those quick engagements, because that's been his trump card so far. He's been sitting there charging very quickly up, whether it's from a flank, whether it's from the side, just, kind of carelessly going in, very confident in his own ability to win those gunfights. Sadly got traded off right there, Crit seeking him out and finding that, knowing that they'd probably sit there and get that aggressive man. Plasma being the last here in this situation, having to get that bomb. And once again, we're seeing Illini in the opposite situation this time around, trying to lock down around that bomb, trying to close this dude out. Unfortunately, not able to sit there and do too much, but Plasma being able to do something himself, though, as he's going to try and eventually get to this bomb. But overall, well played by Illini in that situation. I love when these bombs are down, these teams are sitting there and strategizing and almost playing a game of like camping, but everybody says camping, but I like to call it defending the objective.
Yeah, well, I mean, like in Search and Destroy, I mean, in competitive Call of Duty in general, there's really no such thing as camping. It's called using it and playing the round to your strengths. So, like for example, in pubs, if you're just sitting there and you're sitting in a corner for the entire match, somebody might get mad at you and call you a camper because that's what you are. You're a dirty camper. However, if you're playing in competitive Call of Duty and you know that either a bomb is down or you have a site cleared out and you're just waiting on the defensive side of things, it is completely okay just to sit back and wait for those players to push up across the map. Yep. You know that they are going to have to push up across the map, so waiting for them, waiting for it, especially when so much is on the line, is the most incredible opportunity that you have to win a round of Search and Destroy. But Illini Orange, they'll win 2 in a row here. 3-3 we go inside of round number 7, and this is going to be the decisive round that changes the entirety of the complexion of this game, the complexion of this series potentially. Because if SIUE Red loses 3 in a row, Illini Orange then have the momentum. They're looking to go ahead and find themselves potentially the Search and Destroy win after getting the momentum, and then of course that would lead them a 2-0 margin of victory inside of the series. So SIUE Red on the defensive side playing very passive, as we just pointed out.
Yeah, and I love what these guys are doing. Not exactly splitting the map as much as I like to see in Search and Destroy, because we do know last year that was a very popular strat with these larger maps, trying to utilize, hey, let's get these picks over here, sit there, lock down this whole half of the map. But we're not seeing that very much in this, in Cold War. We see very aggressive up front, everybody stacking on an objective and trying to win these gunfights, which honestly enough is exciting enough, because SIUE Red getting another round on the board with winning those gunfights, it doesn't allow too much tactics to come into play. It allows a lot more quick reactive kind of gameplay, but overall still highlighting once the bomb does go down, and in situations like that, these teams do get a chance when it slows down a little bit to highlight that they are capable of winning plays.
Well, this is more of the SIUE Red team that we kind of expected going into the series, folks. Remember, if you are just joining us on the stream, this is the battle between the number 7 Illini Orange versus the number 10 SIUE Red roster in terms of the power rankings for the Season 3 of the CCL. Thus far, the hard point was not close by any stretch of the imagination. It was a 100-point club there for the side of Illini Orange as they lead 1-0 over the side of SIUE. However, in the Search and Destroy, it's been a completely different story. 4-3 up is SIUE Red, and an offensive push. Kind of crazy thus far. Buzz, 10-3 to start the game off. Really has been quiet the last 2 rounds. We'll see if he can be that aggressor that the side of Illini Orange is going to be, I guess, their Achilles heel in regards. But Mythic up close. Ghosty finds 1, but takes himself out in the process. 2 players in sort of maps. Mythics will get taken out with the Semtex. This is the round of Semtex. Now Shuffy in the 1 versus 2.
And now we're at a, 1v1. Shuffy got a really good pick right there. Seeing Plaza, but losing that gunfight. These guys are just, I think that's what we're just tending to see more in this higher level of play. I think, I've sat there and discussed so many times tactics, map rotations, being smart about things. But when we see these guys, I think they all just know what they're capable of when it comes with their hands on those controllers, knowing they can frag out that their egos almost collide in game and sit there and they're like, you know what, let's just kill them. Let's just do that. Let's just sit there and create this hectic environment and sit there and show that the best gunfights really do win matches. And SIUE is showing that they have the best off picks to make sure and go ahead and establish themselves up with this 5-3 lead so far.
Well, maybe not necessarily the CCL, but in Modern Warfare, there was one roster inside of the amateur scene that really shocked a lot of people throughout the year, and that was the Carnage Gaming roster. And the reason that they were so good last year wasn't really because of the strats that they had on other maps. It was the sheer aggression that their submachine gun players were able to play with, getting through the map, whether it be in S&D, whether it be in Hardpoint, any domination game mode that you can even think of. They were always being extremely aggressive and getting around the map and putting the gunfight and the map presence and the pace in their favor. And that's kind of the most important thing too, right? Because when you're able to put the map in your pace and you're able to play to your strengths the most, that's when you're going to statistically do the best. So if you are an aggressive team and a team counteracts you with, non-aggression and just very passive pushes, it's not going to work out well. It's the same thing we see here. Illini Orange, now they're trying to get a bit more aggressive. SI to their strengths though, they're playing a bit passive, but now it's going to be a 1 versus 3 for Mythic.
Mythic in a tough situation here, talking about pacing and all that. These guys, I think Buzz has found his pace with how being aggressive. And at this point in the game, they've caught on to him as an individual player. They sat there and said, all right, Buzz will be right there in the front lines. He's going to sit there and probably sacrifice himself to get 1 or 2 trades right off the bat and give his teammates an upper hand. But at this point in the game, as we see Illini do very well right here, they sat there and they just they almost took a play out of his book. They sat there and said, all right, if there is a man somewhere, we need to go ahead and be quick enough to get up to a site, possibly the furthest one, because we've sat there and interacted on A little bit too much. If we can get to B quick enough and play that aggressively like they have been doing so far, it's got to work for us. And it ended up doing that because we did see, Plaza trying to hold that down as well with Mythic and just not getting the trades that they wanted, therefore giving them that round. And I think going forward, we're going to see a little bit more of that.
I don't remember exactly what player it was, but on the defensive side for the side of Illini Orange, one of the players actually looked like had stick drift going on there. I saw the right stick kind of just slowly going over towards the right a little bit, and I know that's not something that somebody's just going to do at the beginning. So, able to play through stick drift is one of the hardest things that you can do in Call of Duty, especially when you get in an intense gunfight or something like that, because it can really pull you off. So, impressive that the side of Illini Orange is able to, kind of power through that, and especially after that first hardpoint performance inside of the S&D here, it's one of those things that you kind of love to see. But Mythic up towards the A site, bomb will go down. 3 players inside of maps and office right now for the side of Illini Orange, and this could spell trouble because look who's here. It's Buzz. He's been the entry pit drag guy every single time. Is able to find one, escapes with his life. Now around the corner, it's going to be Crit who finds the trade. 11 and 6 for Crit. Shuffy will now find a kill as well. Last one alive here for the side of Illini Orange is going to be Crit, though, taken down. SIUE Red, after an abysmal first map with a hard point, come back strong in the S&D, tied the series up 1 apiece between both of these two teams, and that's what more we expected of the number 10 ranked team compared to the number 7 team that completely and utterly demolished them and almost embarrassed them in map number 1. I don't think that to be that, aggressive with it, but I mean, it was a thrashing.
Yeah, Mythic, and I want to mention that last round, Mythic did a great job there. We didn't exactly see him, in terms of camps, but we did see through the kill feed that he was established himself on that point. He got the plant down, and he also sit there and trade out a couple guys, making sure to even close out that round there. A great performance by him right there. Able to sit down and hold down Eskies. Usually Buzz being the upfront man on those first couple rounds, holding that down, getting those flanks, and making sure to utilize himself and cut out those numbers a little bit. But overall, I feel like SIUE sat there and showed that, Ray may have been Illini's place, but Moscow's ours. So as long as we can draw this out a little bit longer and we can get to a last S&D, we know what these guys are capable of. We know who their aggressors are. We know what kind of plans they got going forward. So we just need to find a way to counter this as we go into our next couple matches.
S&D wins championships, Mick. That's the old saying from Call of Duty. It's been like that for years, as Call of Duty's been in a staple mode for as long as I can remember playing Call of Duty 4. Folks, on the other side of this break, Raid Control, map number 3. Both teams tied up 1-1. The battle to stay inside of the top 10 in the rankings. It's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a good one. It might not be around Game 5, Round 11 like we saw during that last series. However, I can guarantee you that we're at least going to 4. Folks, my name is McCormiel alongside Mick. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back, folks. Week 3 here in the CCL. Day 2 of week 3, might I add. And this is going to be the final matchup here on the Alpha stream for this week until next week on Monday. I know it's going to be a long gap. I'm hoping that you can make it just as much as I can make it. And it's going to be tough to get there. But one of the things that we do kind of need to preface going into this Raid Control is that these two teams are some of the best, if not the best teams in the Mid-America A division. And I know I teased it before the stream, or rather before our match kind of started in that hard point, but I promise you, you're going to want to stick around to the end of the stream. I promise. After this game is over, please, I'm telling you, you got to stick around because you are not going to want to miss something. You're not going to want to miss it. I promise. I just have to say that. So you're going to want to stay here, stay hot, stay proud, baby, because you got some information coming your way. But Raid Control is our next map. Mick, Raid Control is kind of one of those, it's a different map here on Cold War between Checkmate and Garrison, because offense is actually kind of easy. And I say easy lightly, but.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you on that. Like, with Raid Control, there's so many weird angles and there's so many kind of far peaks that you got in this map to where it's like, on defense, it feels a little easy if you don't have anybody pushing you constantly, which I'm sure whenever SIUE gets on the offensive side, they're going to make sure it's not easy for these guys with how aggressive they've been so far. But on the offensive end, these guys are going to exactly know where they're coming from with the map being so open and, possibly getting some easy picks and going ahead and getting themselves a lives advantage going into it right off the bat. So we do see them making an initial push towards A here, which, SIUE really is kind of looking for and wanting because, they're sitting there, they're going to sit there and try and win these trades as best as possible as they're doing so far. And they're already going to sit there and try and establish themselves a tick. But sadly, it's not going to work as well. And they probably need to be looking around B point at this time. But, they're going to sit there and probably keep on trading out tickets here as best as possible or sit there and try to rotate this out because they're already down on lives here.
Well, beginning of the round there, we saw Buzz Was able to find two, but that was after player number 8 and XC actually flanked all the way up through middle map and was able to find two players who were trying to push over towards A on the offensive side of things. And thus far, it's been a pretty good round for the side of SIUE Red. I mean, although they are on the offensive side of things, they're up by 1 life here in the map advantage. But realistically, I mean, you've got 3 players now focused over towards B. You're about to get yourselves potentially A if player number 4 wraps back to help player number 1, which hopefully he will, because that's not only going to allow your team to have a lot of really good control of the map, but once you get this A zone, the way it's set up on this map is that the B zone becomes so much easier, not only because of those spawns, but if you get B before A, there's so much more of an opportunity, 1, for you to get spawn trapped, but 2, getting to that point is so incredibly difficult. And if 2 go down now, make it a 3rd. Oh, that's going to be A control, baby. Unless player number 8 can somehow make a miracle happen. XE was able to do it at the beginning of the round, and there he goes, the shots over the top. However, A is going to be secured. 2 ticks on B is all that remain for the side of SIUE Red. Illini Orange now on the back foot. Defensive side down 1 life.
Yeah, and I think it's really good that we went ahead and locked down A for these guys. You know, surprisingly, it being A that they locked down so quickly, but also kind of predictable at the same time, because these guys, as we saw in Moscow, they're very aggressive. They're very good about winning those short engagements with a lot of them on AK-74 and excelling with that. But, you know, once you sit there and get into that B side, it's so open. There's so many kind of large angles that you can hold in so many wide angle areas to where that's where these guys are going to struggle the most. They are lucky to get that tick right there, and that's exactly what they wanted. And as you know, as Illini was distracted over there on B side, they won, or on A side, they sat there and tried their best to get a pip on B, which they ended up getting. But at this point, when they know they have to hold that down, these AK-74Us aren't going to shine as well as they expected as they did in Moscow.
Well, I know I said that A first and then going to B is a little bit easier. However, that has not proven to be the case. Illini Orange has actually played it extremely well, because if you think of where player number 6 is playing on your mini-map right now, step over towards that top bedroom area, and as XE finds 2, that's going to open the door for kitchen control and money control to be there now, as they all can make this pinch play happen. But as XE finds 3, looks for the last one, it's going to be Plasma who retaliates with 2, and a 3rd of his own. Okay, I guess we're just trading triple kills now. Okay, but to kind of continue my point of player number 3, playing over towards bedroom, that's going to spawn the side of SIUE Red down towards the southern portion of the map, and then also make it available pinch play for the side of Illini Orange when SIUE eventually does push up through the map. But is that bamboo growing out of the side of the wood there? I don't know.
Possibly, but you know, it must go really fast because this game's going really fast. And you know, Illini was really good sitting there holding down these objectives. Once they got around over to B side, you know, they just held that down. We did see SIUE have a really good push on there in kitchen. Once again, showing that once they get into those close quarter situations, they can win it. But, you know, these guys sitting there holding it down pretty well and retaliating. You know, XE getting that double kill, that was huge in terms of playing it because the guys were splitting kitchen and money. And once you sit there and get the guys split up like that, it doesn't allow them to have the control they did prior. Because that's the only way it seemed to them that they could take over that control point. As they took it by storm, you know, any resources they had, they could sit there as a team, turn and kill a man, kill another, and then just hold that down because they know where the spawns are coming from at that point. They didn't get around to having that position, sadly, you know, unfortunately for SIUE, but it was a good attempt nonetheless. And just not giving them enough access to rotate back and forth. Maybe next time around they need to sit there and wait A out a little bit more to use it as a distraction rather than as just killing time.
Mythic and Buzz both find 2. D-Day, another one. 3 down for the side of Illini Orange here early on. Another one in towards Zigzag. Should get some shots onto him, but Ghosty somehow manages to escape with his life, and Mythic will fall. So what looked like a potential spawn trap for SIUE Red now turns into complete A control for the side of Illini Orange. They've got to look back to middle map because you see all 4 arrows from the side of SIUE flying and funneling through that A area. But, you know, eventually there does come a time where those power positions at A are going to be enough for your team to potentially secure it. Ghosty will lose a gunfight to Mythic. That's going to be rather unfortunate for this hold over towards A. However, the biggest part here is now 2 ticks of A have been contested and, of course, captured. Now 1 more could be the difference maker here. An extra minute will be added to the clock. Illini Orange, a great defensive or rather offensive retake over the defensive side of SIUE. They've got A. Now they look to go to B.
Illini doing a really good job here. You know, they said that they established A, and as you said, A's looked pretty easy for both teams so far. As you get around to B, I feel like Illini is going to have a much better opportunity and a much better chance of capturing this with how well they've established themselves so far in these long-range engagements, holding this down. They know that defensive angles at this point. They just played in this position. They just won in it. So they know what the winning angles are, and those are going to be the first places they check when they come around and try and check that B side. Sadly, not getting a point yet or finding a place to distract them, but overall, I feel like having a much better maneuverance since these guys are already trying to go for flanks and looking for this mid control to find a different way to approach it than SIUE did.
Looking relatively the same in terms of what we saw between the kill discrepancies in these two teams. Respectively, though, it is the side of Illini Orange who do go ahead and find 2, with Crit finding himself a little bit of a way here. But as Plasmid once again is able to control money, we saw him get 3 last time. There's 2, plus a teammate's help. D-Day inside of that little tiki hut is going to be able to take down another player. So right off the rip, it was a great Illini Orange push at first, with Crit finding 2. Then immediately it was 4 down for the side of Illini Orange after the fact. Plasmid back to middle map, sees Ghosty in middle map, won't be able to find the initial shots and kill. However, he will be able to escape with his life over towards that cutout. So resetting here, both of these teams looking to go ahead and find the team push together into middle map. Ghosty will be spotted out with a nade, and the information will be there, but look at the spawns. They're going to be closer. They're not going to be all the way out towards back laundry, because SIUE Red was so pushed up into kitchen that Illini Orange couldn't go ahead and push out those spawns, but D-Day's got to win a couple of big ones here. He's won 1, but isn't able to find the rest. They stack the point. 1 ticket B is going to be good. 2 more ticks to go.
And for them just to have 2 guys to manage this, that'd just be insane. You know, Ghosty doing a great job with the flank right there, already finding it 1 man in a pick, but sadly, Scuffy's already going to sit here, and he's going to be cut off, you know, in a really open angle right there, sadly enough. You know, usually you want to go prone in an area like that and find some kind of cover, especially when you're trying to play a rat like a rat at this point, because, you know, you can't usually win those 1-4s. So with that, you know, SIUE grabs the win right there, doing a great job on defense and showing that, you know, we may not be able to push a point, but neither can you guys. So it's going to be a lot more back and back than we thought when it came around to these matchups on defense.
Look at these two teams. You see so much of similarity, but yet so much differences in the way that they play. Aggressive, defensive, they've played passive, they've played fast. All the different rounds that we've seen between the both of these teams have been fantastic, and it looks like we are switching sides. All right, now we're back, so we're still good. 1-1 between both of these two teams. Not exactly sure why that took so long, but you know what? Yeah, COD's going to COD, and we're going to cast it. So on the offensive side of things, now, going back to it, it was going to be the side of SIUE Red. And folks, remember, the last time we did see an offensive push from them, they got A control early on. However, they weren't able to take over B, similar to what we just saw from Illini Orange there on offense. XE will go ahead and do the exact same thing. It's almost deja vu, except he plays just a little bit of a different angle. Buzz was able to find 2 last time. Can he find another double after XE finds 2 up through pillars?
Sheffy's making a really good push right here. Sadly, you know, getting caught off by Mythic right there, but overall, he had the right idea. They sat there, they know these guys are going to go for A right off the bat. They're not going to sit there and utilize B as much as we expected them to. And as long as I can lock this down, it's going to totally shut these guys out. You know, A's probably going to be captured here eventually, but B's always going to sit there and be the problematic source for both of these teams. So these guys have to be going ahead and looking at this and, you know, getting rid of that problem later by taking care of it right now. And as we do see, SIUE is already going to make that rotation, but Ghosty's going to do a really good job of already being set up.
He read those spawns great, but isn't able to find the kills. However, Crit and Nexi are there to go ahead and find the trades. Plasmid last alive in the water will go ahead and be quite aquatic with those shots. As Plasmid and D-Day find a pair, they'll go ahead and push up. They've got 1 tick on A, looking for control of B. They're going to start the process just a little bit here. Nade into money is going to be able to catch 1, so information for Plasmid to know that a player is behind him. Call that out to his teammates. However, they're not going to be looking there. XC's going to be able to find 1, make it a second. Crit follows with 3, 4 down for the side of SIUE Red, and we're back to the same position we were in before. 1 tick at A, no progress essentially at B, and now it's going to be back to the A site once again. 19 seconds, time will stop as they're inside of the point. However, Crit there with the AR in hand is going to be able to toss a Semtex over the top. Mythic will escape with his life for the time being, but now 2 ticks at A. They've got players there. The pitch is coming through. The suffocation has been met. Nobody left alive here for the side of SIUE Red. That's likely going to be the round unless they can somehow, some way get to B and go ahead and capture it.
Yeah, and that looks like that's the only way they're going to do it right now. These, you know, you do see SIUE already trying to sit there and make progress on B side, but earlier on A, they were sitting there utilizing that. And once Illini kind of full stacked it, that's where they realized, okay, let's go ahead and grab B then. You know, we do well on A, but we can't sit here and waste our lives all day. We're already down on B, so as long as we can just sit there and cause some disruptions in the map, throw a little wild card into the mix and go ahead and get this B side locked, we now have 1:10 left. So we can sit there, worry about this now, and we can go for these flanks and lock down their spawn being we're so close to it.
Wow. I mean, that right there is just great. I can't really say anything else except the fact that, SIUE Red finally came together and they showed me that they can make one good, strong push to a site, catch the opponents off guard, and that's thanks to getting those close spawns under that bedroom that allowed them to be so near towards that B site. However, now as we look back to A, they've already got 2 ticks on it. That's the real kicker for the side of Illini Orange, because if they get one squad wiped down, that means they can go ahead and potentially capture that 1 tick that they need left. Bad news, though. 5 lives remaining. Now make it 0 lives remaining for the side of SIUE Red. They've got an opportunity to push up, but Illini Orange still have not only 13 lives remaining on the field, they've got full control of the A ring, and of course now have the power positions to go ahead and lock those down with ARs, push the side of SIUE Red all the way back into their spawn, and the Shuffy finds through. Oh, that's likely going to be the killer.
Yeah, SIUE, I did want to mention that they had a chance in this, but, at that point with 4-man, they've had the aggression so far. They've done a really good job of being able to win these gunfights for the most part when it comes to pushing these objectives, doing a really good job finally getting B down. Issue is, once you sit there and utilize so many of your lives and so many of your tickets to get that B site, once you rotate around to A, these guys kind of waited it out. I know they had a minute 10 to sit there and utilize for their advantage to go ahead and get as much intel as possible. I didn't see many players following up at that point. We did see Myth going for a flank over there, but not having a man with him to follow that up and get those trades. And I don't think the teammates had enough intel or really wanted to utilize that information to their advantage to sit there and check laundry as they were pushing out, or find a way on stones, or make a collective push and try and take advantage of the small little factors they were each throwing into the wind to help each other out.
Oh, look at this. Change of pace here. Illini Orange don't go for A right off the rip. They're going to go straight for B here through the water. Great shots there from D-Day. He's able to find Craig. Buzz will find a kill as well. And, well, there's the second one. So, push that was very quick and looked like it could have been something that might have led to a potential either A, maybe a ticket B, or maybe full capture of B is going to turn completely on its head. 4 go down right off the rip for the side of Illini Orange. The discrepancy in the lives couldn't be any more clear. Right off the rip of a round. And these Krigs from the side of SIUE Red are just making the difference right now. I mean, you saw it over towards the water. You see it at A there. You see so much presence on the map from SIUE Red. You wonder, where was that when they were all pushing back together over towards A? Were people trying to make hero plays? Were they trying to push up through middle map to make a pinch play on the players there? Or were the shots just not connecting, and were they just, kind of caught up in the moment of, all right, we've got B, now we got to hit A, but they were just either A, worried about time, worried about the life count. There's so many different things that could have been going through their heads, but I mean, look at Mythic. Oh, almost able to find Exy. I'm not sure how he didn't get that kill there onto Exy. All I know is that already the life count has been diminished by 7 for the side of Illini Orange, but I mean, with their slaying power, we know how quickly that can turn upon its head. Both teams with Krigs out on the map now, trying to patrol around the map. 1 tick a day, progress being made. B is going to be their next line of sight, but they've got to get the ticks on A first.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I'm watching these guys right here. SIUE doing a really good job of manipulating their lives right here. We saw Mythic. They're being a lot more cautious after that last round. We just saw Mythic just weave out like a snake there and then come around and then get a kill over there in Art, which is just, I don't know how he survived up front. I'm not worried about the exit kill. I'm just confused on how he lived right up there in the front with one bullet left for his death. So, but we do see these guys, and at this point, it is going to be going around to B. And this is where we've seen the most contention so far. These guys are always back and forth, and the attack side not usually winning it unless it's targeted first. And these guys, I think we may still be stuck in the same kind of situation. SIUE already having an establishment on there, but one guy pushing up into spawn a little bit too far. But overall, just a great job from these guys in holding it down and trying their best to sit there and hold this out. Mythic also set up in a really good position here, but sadly getting clipped off right there.
Ghosty was actually close to going ahead and finding himself streaks. The buzzkill came through as he pushed forward towards those back spawns. Nobody, I believe, on either of teams has the utility of streaks to work with here, so it's going to be straight one-on-one gunfights and team pushes to both of these sites as we go ahead and find ourselves getting down towards the end of this round. Last time Illini Orange had pushed up onto B, they had 3 players stacked upon it. SIUE Red did the impossible, or rather the improbable, and were able to go ahead and hop on towards that point and be able to go ahead and cut the majority of the players down. Same thing's going to happen. They spawn over towards Laundry. However, the progress is going fast. Mythic, and I'm glad that he didn't get super aggressive and overzealous with the challenge there, as he does peek around that corner, going to get a couple of players weak. They jump down, they hop in, the contest comes through. 2 players go down from each team. Buzz is there. Buzz is there for 3. No lives remaining. Time off the board. SIUE Red continue to keep fighting here in the control. When it seems like they're on their last little breath, when it seems like they're on their back foot inside of it, they always seem to push back forward, and it's something that is great because that shows composure and that shows that they're not willing to give up. Folks, remember, 1-1 tied here inside of the series. This is a huge game because remember, it's game number 1. SIUE didn't look that great in hardpoint.
Yeah, and that's a real issue going into this 5th round here because Illini, if we're following Sweet as we have for the whole game so far, we see that, it's very defensive sided. It's going to sit there. None of these teams are able to secure both points, or somebody's always going to sit there and by some means find a way to run out of tickets when, desperately looking for those objective secures. So Illini, if they can sit there and continue this momentum and actually get this 3rd round, if SIUE doesn't step up somehow and learn how to sit there and control both sites and find pips here and there on both of them in order to sit there and finally secure it down, Illini's going to be looking really good coming into this hard point because we saw that they kept them in the 100 club for that first time around on Raid. It may be on Moscow this time around, but when it comes down to respawn modes and holding these hills and manipulating your sources and allocating your guys in certain areas, they just did a much better job, and that's threatening to SIUE if they allow that to happen.
Well, I think, too, we've seen a lot of really good team pushes from the side of SIUE, namely the one where they had 4 players spawn up below the bedroom and then push back on over towards that B site to go ahead and complete it to win that one, or at least to get a little bit of time on that one offensive round where, unfortunately, they just couldn't cap that A site. So now as we're looking between both of these two teams, we've got the side of Illini Orange all the way pushed up over towards A. They prohibit the ticks from coming through, at least for the full completion of capturing. Plasmid is going to be pushed up, and look at all 4 of them come again. We just talked about this B push beforehand. Now they're doing it once again. At least 1 tick on B. The second one has progress on it. The contest should come in just beforehand. However, that's going to allow them to go ahead and find it because now the teammate trades come through. Buzz can be the last one alive, but Crit finds 3 over towards the point. 4 streak for him, working on potential score streaks now with that kill. However, will get taken down. So as we look over towards A, 2 ticks have been captured. B has 2 ticks captured, and there's only 1 life for the side of Illini Orange that gives them the advantage.
I'm loving what I'm seeing here. These teams are finally finding ways to sit there and manipulate both points. We see 2 ticks on B, and as long as we have a man to sit there and trade out and wait it with the other guy getting picked off, they finally pick off B there and give themselves so much time to work with. And while we still have a 16 and 16 in terms of lives, these are what these guys need. This is how control should be played, where you're utilizing each point, not exactly getting one up and making it almost feel like hard point, because if you're not successful in hard point, you don't want to put your team in that position. So as we see these guys finally utilize both points as distractions, going back and forth, putting Illini on a little chase there. That's what confuses these teams and puts them in a situation where even if you're not as good in terms of these gunfights, and if you're subpar when it comes to holding down a single point, you increase your chances by doing that.
I love what Buzz did there. Played in the spawn of Illini Orange. Oh no, D-Day! That's quite reminiscent of the name right there. That is rather unfortunate for the side of Illini Orange because that was their furthest player who was pushed up. But, I mean, even though he does find that second kill there, also, they got 2 kills on the refresh, so, trades come through in the technical sense of the word, but now as we look over towards middle map, it is going to be Plasmid who finds 1. 8 to 8 lives remaining for both of these teams. Now, SIUE have the slight advantage. Looking over towards the point, Shuffy finds their 1 on the Plasmid. Plasmid, who's had a good game thus far. D-Day, 35 and set 27, 34 and 35 for Buzz, all pushing in towards the point now. It's the clash at the ring that could decide the fate of all these teams. Crit finds 2 once again. No respawns remaining for the side of SIUE Red. No respawns remaining for the side of Illini Orange. They push through. Buzz is there. Buzz looks for the first kill, but it's XC and Ghosty who find 2. Now in middle map, D-Day tries to find Crit, the last one alive. It's Mythic. 1 versus 3 to win the game for the team, to clutch up and put them up 2-1 here inside of the series. The push back up the ramp. Ring players there. Up in that top right corner. Won't go. Great try. Won't succeed. Illini Orange win a crazy map number 3. One that went straight down to the wire. 3-2. Wow. I mean,
yeah. Everything about that. That was a beautiful last round. If we saw every single round play out like this probably would have been the most defining. This could be a game that every single team looks at in terms of going for control just over the course of the season. You sit there, you see control site B, control site A, they're both, taken to some extent, and it sits there and puts these defensive guys of where the actual, where do we control? Where do we go? Yep. These guys, if we sit there and give them time over here, we're sacrificing this. If we go over here, we're sacrificing this. We got to make a decision, and that's what you need as an attack, guys. You sit there, that they're coming to these sites, and you have to make them feel like they're in the weird shoes at that point. SIUE doing a very good job. They're sadly not winning those trades there at the end on the A site because, they didn't focus it up front, and that's usually when they started winning those ticket engagements. But as the course of the game went on, and once they started getting their respawn tickets down, Illini was making a very good push there on their spawn, almost replacing the men that died with
Yeah.
opposite players of the other team. So once it got around to the last man situation, Mythic got closed in, and it almost felt like the world was against him.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, you know, it really came down to that last push, right? Because you have two players there at the van, and we saw at the white van when D-Day was able to find both of those two players, it could have been completely different. However, instead of sending a couple of players through middle map to get those players off the respawn block from the side of Illini, and this is going to be a little bit nitpicky, but Illini Orange, when they sent a couple of players through kitchen, they got pillar control. From the
Yep.
side of SIUE Red, they were pushing up through ramp in through art and trying to get back onto that 8 points so they could stack that point and get it as close as they could, as fast as they could, because they knew that lives were going to be huge between both of those two teams. I mean, when it's that close, it's really hard to call because everything's a judgment call in Call of Duty, no matter what you're doing, and you never know where they're going to be on the map. However, one of the things that I would have loved to see after D-Day got that kill is trying to get as much mid-map control as possible. Obviously, the nade came over the top and the shots came through from the right side of Laundry, which really screwed over the entire push from the side of SIUE Red. However, if they would have focused maybe a little bit rid of resources, play a little bit more calm, cool, and collected because they still had time to work with, they could have made a better push on towards that site. And unfortunately, it just does not happen for them. SIUE Red are now down 1-2 inside of the series. Hardpoint is next up on the slate. 250-85 was the score of that first Hardpoint in a 100-point club. Mick, from what we've seen in that last respawn to what we saw in map number 1, do you think that potentially now that they are kind of heating up in the series a little bit in winning at least one map inside of this best of 5, that we could start seeing them kind of boost their ego and maybe they make this a lot more of a competitive hardpoint?
As much as I would love to sit there and agree with you on that, looking at how well Illini did with Hardpoint, looking at how, say if Moscow SND, if Illini did get shut down 6-0, 6-1, somewhere along the lines of that, I would sit there and say, you know what? That is SIUE's map. Give it to them. Let them run with it. You know, they can sit there and we could tie this out and go back to Ray where Illini could possibly win this. Because so far they just established themselves on it a little bit closer the second time around. But, you know, defense is just a little too easy, in my opinion, when it comes to control. So once you sit there and get into that position, and now that we're going back to Moscow, you know, here in a second, it just comes down to the mode at that point. Hardpoint, there's no live limitations. There's nothing to it. It's just winning and getting on that point. And Illini just established themselves so hard on that first one in Raid to where it just seems like it doesn't matter.
You could potentially say that too, because I mean, now in the back of your mind as well, like even though you do win that search and destroy, even though you have a great control map right there, where unfortunately you just lose out at the end due to a couple of unfortunate mishaps on your play calling, when you go back into Hardpoint and you get smacked that bad in that first series, or rather that first map, you know, it's going to be hard to bounce back from it. But again, this is the map they won the S&D on. They probably feel a bit more confident on this map than anything else, especially after showing what they can do in terms of slaying. However, with XC finding that first kill, trades will go back and forth in the technical sense. It is going to be 2 down for the side of Illini Orange. Now make it 3 off the rip, SIUE Red. They've done a great job here thus far. This is more points than really they were able to get throughout the first 2 rotations in that first the first hardpoint on Raid.
I thought that was where you were going at first, you know, talking about how much points they got. But, you know, overall, XE, sadly, we saw that, you know, they're not, it felt like they're getting way too aggressive with this up front, I feel like. We saw XE get that first clip. He sat there, saw that the site was contested, and went for the man. And instead of keeping it at 0-0, he went out didn't check courtyard under any circumstances, and sat there and got picked off from it. And at that point, you're not sitting there just maintaining a 0-0. You're letting it become a 0-1, 2, 3, and giving time up on that board, which you can't allow. Which we do see them reversing the momentum here. We do see them establishing themselves, but now they've already given up that site, and they have to push on to point 2. But overall, getting a very good trade and playing themselves right to get that momentum and get those points in the later end of that point.
And this is why I get a bit scared for the side of SIUE Red. We know last time in the hardpoint, we saw the side of Illini Orange be able to break within about 10 seconds of time and get a lot of, a lot of time off of holds that SIUE Red had not only spawns for, but initial hill time and basically halfway map control and presence on. This time, though, player number 3 is actually going to opt to rotate through middle map and over towards gold. But I believe player number 5 actually might have picked up and saw that player going through gold. And as he looks towards his left, that's exactly what's going to happen here Plasmid's going to be seeing shots in the back come through. And although they do play for the scraps here, look at what player number 6 just did in Shuffy. Not only secured 10 more seconds of scrap time, but what that does is where player number 5 is pushed up on the map right now, that forces the spawn of SIUE Red all the way over towards back right, spawns them all the way across at P2, and does not allow for them to have any chance at going ahead and finding a team push over towards P3. That was masterful, that was beautiful, and I am loving every second of Illini Orange play calling right now because they are looking just so good with it. However, 15 seconds have gone down, the spawn over towards Bank comes through, Illini Orange held on for then. However, SIUE made a great play even though they spawned all the way across the map and it was a marathon to get back.
Yeah, and just to elaborate off, that play that they said from P2, from P2, P3, that's why P3 is it's one of the most beautiful points in this game because it establishes, how well players can line this up and show how well they can rotate from one side of the map to the other, because that next point right there by buses on the street is going to sit there. That's 2 free points if you can lock this down and establish yourself on this. And, Illini, they did a very good job at retaking this. They did a very good job with those rotations up front, sadly getting shut down by SIUE because we see that they're doing so good in these close quarters engagements. But as it continues on, they didn't keep those spawns, but they had a very great, call when it came to those spawns and, buying as much time as they can.
Little sneaky play hides behind the trophy system. That's a new one. Unfortunately, takes his own trophy system out in the process. However, D-Day will go ahead and replenish one of his own on towards the point. So shots over the top. D-Day will find one on the go. D-Shuffy with 2, though, will start to push up towards this point. And his crit is able to find the shots there on the Plasmid with the M4. It's going to go back and forth for the time being. 15 seconds separate these two teams. SIUE Red looking good thus far inside of P4. Looking to go ahead and force the side of Illini Orange all the way back in towards their spawn. Way back. But look at player number 7 and 8 who just spawned up on the map. This is going to create a pinch play between these two teams, and this is where things can get a little bit hairy for the side of Illini Orange, because now you've gone ahead and even though that you were spawning on the correct side of the map, you get those spawns over towards Bank. This allows SIUE to spawn up for spawn up for spawn side for P2, get P1 time, hold you to your power positions all the way back in your spawn, and get a lot of time here potentially without a contestation coming through.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Illini there, once you see that the clock's coming down and the next point's getting ready to come up, they didn't have enough guys rotating there. It is, to their credit, those 2 points, they are pretty close to each other, but you don't want to sit there and only have 2. You don't want to have 2 guys on a point period usually. You want to sit there and have guys roaming around. You want to make sure, as we said earlier, as we did with Shuffy earlier in that first match, talking about having like a final boss technically on that point. You want to sit there and elaborate yourselves on the map, line yourself up where these spawns are going to be coming through. And if these guys do want to make a flank by any chance, make sure it's a long one where you can buy as many time and as much kind of points for your team as possible if they decide to take that flank route. And if it doesn't end up paying off, it's just a huge loss on the team's path.
Unfortunately for player number 5 right there, the side of SIUE Red were pushed up past that halfway mark on the map, but look at how far they actually spawn out now. And I know we keep drawing attention to the spawns on this map, and for good reason though. They're not parallels now. Those were the deepest spawns that you can get on the rotation to P2 when you lose those initial spawns. We saw this out of SIUE Red not be able to go ahead and really break back in towards the point after about 30 seconds when Illini Orange made that second complete push over towards P2. The big problem here now is that you've got one player pushing over towards Eski's side push. You got 2 players pushing on the long street and 1 player inside the B building. This could either work out really well or could push them to a very sporadic and spread out decision-making process to then not only disrupt the entire process of them breaking the hill, but unfortunately spawn them in the back where they wouldn't have P3 rotations going for themselves. But luckily enough, they spun across the map over towards middle map in the checkers area. They're going to go ahead and rotate back over towards P3, give Illini Orange about 25 seconds of time, and this is kind of what happened in that first hard point. It was relatively close at the beginning of the game, and then all of a sudden Illini Orange were able to just have an incredible break, an incredible run of hard points that they strung together to put themselves in a very good position to win the game, and that's exactly what they're doing here. Going to be up by about 70 as we get ready to rotate to P3.
I really like what Xy's doing here. He's sitting there noticing, these guys have this spawn. I don't need to push these kills. I don't need to risk by any chance winning that gunfight, pushing up and getting cocky, and then risking our spawns for, just a couple seconds of time. These guys are already rotating. I just need to buy out time, let them think that we have more guys set up and like that raid, the first time around, make it seem like we have guys set up through here and make me look like a much bigger figure than I really am. Because in the meantime, you already had your teammates set up, getting a couple, about 40 seconds on clock over here, doing a really good job of just setting this up and making sure that this P3 is secure because it's detrimental for that next game.
Rotations, they're going to have to come in through SIUE red side, but I mean, like, look, it's almost too little too late, right? Because Illini Orange, you know, they have the entirety of P3 basically held down for themselves. 17 seconds of scrap time is going to be good for your team, but it's nothing if you would have been able to have those rotations. But Illini Orange made great plays. They forced spawn the side of SIUE back over towards P2 before P3 popped, had more players and were able to win the majority of their gunfights. This is where the side of Illini Orange was not able to go ahead and really find their way last time. However, they've got the rotations over towards the new point. Split spawn for the side of SIUE red is going to cause a little bit of a pinch play here. However, is it going to be enough? Player 2 takes down Crit, so that's the first kill that they needed. However, now it's going to be trades back and forth. 2 versus 2 back towards the hill. SIUE red in, Illini Orange waiting to go ahead and push back as a squadron. They've got the long-range engagements with those great M4s all the way back over towards the bus. And as Ghosty finds one flying up through that little office window, he's going to look towards the bus to find a couple of more. Team kill, huge, costly for the side of SIUE red. That could have been the dagger very well. Illini Orange, they have the point. We're going to see one more hard point at least. However, SIUE red, it's just looking like it's going to be all over here.
Yeah, and I really like what Scuffy was doing right there, manipulating himself on the site right here. And we do see Ghosty doing a really good job of trying to bob in and out. He sits there, he wants to contest the clock, but he also knows that, you know, we're in a good spot. I'm not going to get too cocky and let us lose these spawns and let us lose these intel. I can sit there and let a man know if he's on the window. I can let him know, you know, from turn around in these trophy systems, I can shut down this small little corner here, which you only get access from that perspective. So a good little shot call by him right there, already letting his teammates say, okay, I can handle this as best, and you guys just go ahead and set up because we only need 20 more points of this, like now. So just go ahead, do your thing, get ready for P1 because if we get that, we're already within a points range, so we can just sit there and establish ourselves, you know, on P1, P2, and get this over.
Desperation mode for SIUE red. They've got players consistently flooding the hill. However, Illini Orange just seems to have more players close by waiting to go ahead for those re-challenges. And even though they can still win off of this hard point, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Player number 6 hasn't made those rotations yet. And, well, this could actually spell a bit of a different story. We know that we can kind of string hills together on Moscow, and it's going to be very difficult to come back from. However, it's not impossible. The biggest thing here for SIUE red is to keep Illini Orange out of this hill. And with Crit being able to get taken down by Plasmid, a couple players in the back, player number 6 is actually going to be huge here, and that's actually going to do it. You know, they had the rotations for the spawns, but players came through the back. Everybody's going to have to re-challenge here. 10 seconds left. It's just probably not going to be enough time. I wish that I could say it was going to be enough time here, even though 2 go down right there. They have players in towards the point. 1 second left. That'll do it, folks. Illini Orange take a decisive 3-1 victory over the side of SIUE red. They'll stay within the top 10 of the power rankings. And remember, these two teams, number 7 and number 10. Coming into this, Illini Orange did have the better rank at number 7, but this is going to knock SIUE out of the top 10 in the power rankings and allow for a new team to pop themselves up inside of the top 10 for this week's power rankings. And, well, folks, we promised you something a little special at the end of this, but we'll do just a little quick map breakdown before we go ahead and get into that. But I promise you're going to want to know that I'm edging you right now. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Man, why you got to do them like that?
I'm sorry.
But,
you know, I have to.
You know, I understand, you know, from your, we're technically on the same casting area. So, I mean, I get the point of you're coming from. But, you know, speaking of points, we just had a lot of them on this hard point map. We sat there, we've seen a lot of these guys. And I think overall we saw SIUE doing a really good job adjusting there, doing as much as they can on this Moscow map, saying that it's not as spread out. There's a lot more points kind of tied together and showing that they could sit there and not get shut out under 100 like they did on Raid, but overall showing that Illini is kind of, they're adjustable. You can sit there, you can read them, you can find a way to counter them. And I feel like a lot of teams are going to be looking at this game specifically in tonight's matches to sit there when they have to face Illini coming up. They're going to sit there and say, all right, this is what they did. This is what they did. This is how we can counter it. This is what worked for SIUE and this is what didn't. And we need to change that. And I think the biggest things we're going to look at are these hard points, because once you sit there, if you don't have enough emphasis on those spawns, that's going to mess you up, because we saw them get those final 10 seconds for free. I mean, there's guys so far out, you couldn't even if you did run into them, it doesn't matter. And then especially on Raid, you know, they just got shut down so hard.
They did, and that was kind of the difference maker too in that series because when you do have a team that's able to not only control the spawns, but again, you talked about the adaptability that Illini Orange has as a roster. Even though one thing might be working for you, again, inside of the game, you have to be willing to try new things. You have to be willing to be thinking on the fly about what you're going to be doing next. And Illini Orange always was one step ahead, seemingly, of SIUE in all of the respawns. Although the control was extremely close to the Moscow S&D didn't necessarily go in their favor. It's undeniable how good the set of Illini Orange are in respawn. So, a 3-1 series win is going to be good for them. A 5-0 victory, or rather a 5-0 record here in split one of the CCL season 3.